Good to have you here. Welcome. I'm Ivar Satiro, and I'm the Sfo Airport Director. So thank you all for being here. Thank you. Thanks so much. It's a pleasure to welcome everyone here today. This is such an important day, and we're just so excited to celebrate this unveiling and this recognition and commemoration of our late Mayor Ed Lee. And we're so pleased to have the family here of Ed, of course, Anita. Welcome, Anita. So great to have you here. Ed's wife. Ed's daughters, Tanya and Rihanna. Welcome, both of you. And Natasha, granddaughter, is also here. Thank you. Welcome. Pansy, of course. Thank you, Pansy, for being here. 94 years young, and she traveled from Seattle to be here with us today. Along with other members of the Lee family, and I understand Ed's brothers and sister are here, Edmund and Manny. Welcome, and Lena, so good to have you here as well. Welcome. Thank you for being here. And it is a real honor for me to be here as well as the airport director and to celebrate this really wonderful commemoration of our late Mayor, Ed Lee, and his life and legacy within San Francisco's International Terminal. Such an important place to have this commemoration. And it is such an appropriate dedication to our late mayor, as he was such a driving force in connecting our city to the rest of the world for business as well as for cultural enrichment. And he was so supportive and proud of our efforts to create an amazing passenger experience and create the standard of a world-class airport. And he would say that he wanted everyone to feel like you were walking through the lobby of a five-star hotel when you traveled through our airport. And I think we achieved that vision for Ed. And with the nomination of Mayor Lee by a coalition of Asian Pacific American community organizations, the Airport Commission really wanted to honor the mayor and formed a special advisory naming committee. And their job was to review the various proposals befitting of the honor that was proposed of our late mayor. And I have to say it was truly an engaged and collaborative process. The committee came up with a unanimous recommendation to the Airport Commission, which also received unanimous approval by the Airport Commission for the dedication of the International Terminal Departures Hall in his honor. Yes, let's hear for that. And there was so much community involvement in this, and we created a special advisory panel, including Anita and including members of the committee that were part of really helping guide the implementation of the various elements of what this honoring of our late mayor would be, including the wood wall, which we will get to see a little later on, including this mural behind me that will then in the future be replaced with a bronze bas-relief plaque, as well as a statue and as well as a video that folks can come and hear the story of Ed and how important he was to the city and county of San Francisco. And it'll be this lasting commemoration in our airport of the extraordinary significance our former Mayor Ed Lee, our late Mayor Ed Lee, had on the city and county of San Francisco. So with that, I thank you all again for being here today, and it is my pleasure to introduce the 45th mayor of San Francisco, who served out the remaining term of Mayor Lee, and whom we all congratulate for her victory to a full 4-year term as our mayor. Welcome, Mayor London M. Breed.
Thank you, Ivar. I'm really excited to be here today, especially with members of the Lee family, members of our Airport Commission, and people that I served with on the Board of Supervisors when Ed was our mayor, president of the Board of Supervisors. Thank you, Norman Yee, for being here, as well as Malia Cohen, chair of the Board of Equalization for the state of California. When Mayor Lee was mayor, we were like his kids. We really were. We would go into his office. We would ask for things all the time. And in most instances, he was always so very supportive. He cared about this city. He cared about the people of this city. and he cared about doing good things for San Francisco. So when I first sat down with him as supervisor and told him that public housing was my priority, of course, we bonded over our shared experience of growing up in public housing. And he said, yes, we will work to make the conditions of residents in public housing better. And I will tell you, since I've been mayor, we've been going to a lot of those public housing developments where the promises of our city have been fulfilled and the conditions have changed significantly. And it's because of his leadership and his work and his love and care for people. His work for our public school system and our children, his work for public safety, and for making sure that we are a city that focuses on making the right decisions, especially for future generations. You know, most mayors wouldn't say this, but since I've been mayor, I am really a beneficiary of all of his hard work. So when I go and I do those ribbon cuttings for our 86 units of affordable housing, when I go and we're saving buildings that Mayor Lee helped to put in motion with funding and support, I know that it's because of his hard work that we're able to make people's lives better. And I only wish that he was able to be here with us to see what an amazing job he did for the people of San Francisco. So many of his friends are here, Naomi and Harlan Kelly and Tony Winokur, and people who worked and served with him, Walter Wang and Goretti Louie, people who loved him and supported him. And, you know, again, I want to thank the Lee family for just, you know, your continued support of San Francisco, your continued involvement in the things that we do to improve, you know, the lives of people in San Francisco. This is Ed Lee's legacy. I, along with other emerging elected officials, we are also a part of his legacy. The work that we did together in San Francisco has really transformed our city and put us on the right path to continue to improve San Francisco. And so it is fitting, as we dedicate the International Airport to Mayor Lee, to just also remind ourselves of not only the work he did, but as the first Chinese American mayor in San Francisco's history, the man was like a rock star. He was like a rock star. Now, Ed didn't need a lot of attention, but I didn't let him not get the attention he needed. I remember when we went to China, we went to Beijing and Shanghai, and so many people with their cameras and everything else, and just, I mean, you would have thought that it was Beyonce and Jay-Z or something like that. It was Mayor Ed Lee getting so much attention, so much love, and it was really cool to watch him just smile as if it's no big deal, and I would be in his ear telling him to soak it all up and get all excited about it. But, you know, that was his personality. He didn't need the attention. He didn't need the fame. He was about the work. He was about the results. He was about the people. And so as we honor him here today, it is only fitting, because he was an international figure, that when people come to the city, the first thing they see is Mayor Ed Lee greeting them. When people leave the city, they can see the same thing. It's the impression that they get, and that is that he was an important figure for the city and county of San Francisco, so much so that he is acknowledged in such a significant way. And so thank you all again for being here. Thank you all to a lot of the airport workers who are here, the family members, the folks in our Chinese and African American communities, people who have come from far and wide to be here to honor someone who is really, he was such an incredible figure, incredible inspiration, and has done a lot to really set our city on the right path. And so it is only fitting that we honor him in this way today at the San Francisco International Airport. His legacy will continue to live on through us. Thank you.
Okay, it is now my pleasure to introduce also a former president of the Board of Supervisors. He worked closely with Mayor Lee on many critical city issues, and if we could, warm welcome for California State Assembly Member David Chu.
Good morning, San Francisco. This is a San Francisco day. I was thinking of how to start my thoughts, and maybe I would start with the following, which is I'm going to be short because he was and I am. Thank you all for being part of the community of San Francisco. I want to thank our mayor and the Airport Commission and so many community leaders who led to this day, to this wonderful naming dedication. And of course, we want to salute Anita and your family, for your family, but also for your sacrifice and for your love. All of us have countless memories of the mayor, and I'm going to just relay a few quick ones. It was exactly 10 years ago today that I was in this international terminal with then Supervisor Carmen Chu and then Supervisor Eric Marr. The three of us were the first three Chinese supervisors to serve together, and we were heading on a goodwill trip to southern China. We were joined by members of the Chinese Chamber, some of whom are here. But what was historic about that event for me 10 years later was that we were also joined by one incredibly competent, selfless, humble, and always smiling city administrator, Edwin Lee. And I remember on that trip, those of us who were elected officials, we were new to our roles, but we observed him as he interacted with our diplomatic counterparts, as he brought goodwill from this city, as he fostered economic and social and cultural ties with other parts of the world. That is the Ed Lee that became mayor that we honor and respect today. A second memory involving this very airport. The first week the current occupant of the White House was inaugurated, he issued an executive order that said that airports were about to become the site of his new walls to keep out refugees. And I'm going to quote something that Mayor Lee said because he was always so mild-mannered, but not on that day. As the son of Chinese immigrants, I am disgusted by the president's executive order to target Muslim communities, to ban immigrants from entering our United States. These actions are a direct betrayal of our American values. We were all so proud of him on that day because for our former mayor, it was important for him to lead a city where love trumped hate, where civility trumps rudeness. Mayor Lee stood for everything that is good about compassion and tolerance for all of our diverse communities. Let me just end with my final memory of Mayor Lee. As Anita knows, you and your husband like to make fun of me all the time for not having had a kid. And I regret that my son Lucas will not get to know Uncle Ed Lee. But what I can tell you is because of this photograph, because of this naming decision, we will have millions of kids from around the world, from China, from Asia, from Africa, from Latin America, from Europe, who will come through these halls and see his face and say, I'm the child of immigrants, but someday maybe I'll be able to run a city. I am the son of a cook and a seamstress, but someday I may be the mayor of one of the greatest cities in the world. That is the legacy of Mayor Ed Lee. And like Harvey Milk, Mayor Lee has given us hope in our future. That is why we're here today, and that's why it's wonderful to be part of our San Francisco community with today's announcement. Thank you so much, and Godspeed.
Thanks, Assemblymember. And now it's my pleasure to welcome up a former District 4 supervisor turned assessor recorder by Mayor Lee and re-elected twice. Please welcome Carmen Chu, the assessor recorder.
Hello, everybody. So happy to be here with all of you and to see this day come forward. So many people who are here today from all different parts of Mayor Ed Lee's life, his family, of course, the community who loved him, and of course our city family who adored him and saw him as a mentor for many of us. I think David spoke to you earlier about that trip that we took back in 2009, and I was on that trip too. And you know, when you travel with someone, just like in relationships, they say that it really reveals someone's true character, right? So, you know, can you travel well together? Were they fussy? Were they hard to get along with, and so on? Well, I have a memory of Mayor Ed Lee on that trip, and on that trip we were walking through one of these beautiful gardens that were high up above where you can see the beautiful scenery in one of the towns. You know, and there was a lot of people around. People were doing Tai Chi. They were doing a lot of different things. And I see our mayor, who wasn't mayor at the time, who was a city administrator, and he was actually looking at the trash can. He was looking at the trash can to understand whether the design of the trash can was something that we should mimic and bring back here to San Francisco. And so, you know, I think revealing sort of the character that was our mayor, and I think that the family knows this too, for all the times that he drug you out in the morning to do cleanups and so on. Our mayor was someone who cared about all the details about how it was to run the city, to run it well, and he did it with every single moment of his life, even when he could have just been taking in the view, when he could have just been enjoying the scenery, or he could have just been eating something different. He was actually just looking at a trash can. So the mayor that I knew, and I think the mayor that all of us have come to love, is someone who came from such humble beginnings, someone who I think had struggles in the family, where you grew up in a place where you didn't have very much, where you saw your own family struggle with the language, and where somehow, some way, you became a lawyer who advocated for civil rights to make sure that injustices were not something that could be tolerated in our community. He was someone who became a city administrator, a city official who cared so much about how we run our city for the benefit of the public. He became our mayor. And one of my proudest moments, being also a daughter of immigrants, was being able to walk down City Hall in the rotunda after having selected Mayor Ed Lee to be our interim mayor and eventually our mayor. That was probably one of the best votes that I ever made as a supervisor. And if there was one thing in terms of a legacy that I could have left behind, it would be to say that I supported and I helped to make sure that San Francisco had our first elected Chinese mayor. So as we are gathered all over here today to watch this unveiling and to see all of this, you know, I think it brings me so much hope and so much pride. David spoke about this earlier, about all the people who will come through our San Francisco International Airport, all the people who will look up and say, who was this person? How is this person significant to San Francisco? And be able to say that, you know, I'm walking through this place, this international city, this place that sets the world's trends, and to know that this man was not only a mayor who helped to move San Francisco forward, but that he's going to be someone who continues to inspire so many generations to come. My parents were seamstresses. My parents cooked in restaurants, just like Mayor Ed Lee's parents did. And you know what? They're proud. They're proud that we have a voice, that we can stand up, that we can fight for the injustices, that when we see people who are being attacked in our community, that we're going to stand up. And it doesn't matter if you're Chinese or African American or Latino, we're going to stand up for any injustice. And that's who this mayor was. And so thank you so much for being here. I can't tell you how meaningful this is to have his remembrance here, right here with us at the International Terminal. Thank you.
Okay, and next we have someone that worked with Mayor Lee on housing policy issues, and now is our very own Airport Commissioner, Malcolm Young.
First of all, I need to apologize to Assemblymember Chu. I think I laughed a little too loud at your short joke. Mayor Lee's short joke. See, I got that wrong too. And then Carmen nudged me, so thank you, Carmen. I appreciate that as well. So when the press usually asks me why I was so adamant about seeing this terminal named after Ed Lee, I usually gave a canned but actually a very sincere response, which is that in the city that was home to the Chinese Exclusion Act of 1882, it's incredibly fitting that the city's gateway to the international community be named after a Chinese-American civil rights advocate, somebody who devoted his entire career to breaking down barriers. In that context, I just want to call out that the naming of this terminal is incredibly ironic, but also incredibly important. But if you asked me maybe without the press around, in a quieter moment, why I was so adamant about this, I want to just give a much simpler answer. Ed becoming mayor made me proud to be an Asian American. In a city and state that Asian Americans had a long but unrecognized role in building, Ed becoming mayor was a statement that we mattered as a community. And frankly, naming this terminal after Ed is a statement that we continue to matter as a community. So while I don't take this for granted, I wasn't necessarily surprised when there was so much unity from our community when we first started organizing the committee and the campaign to push for the naming of the International Terminal after Mayor Lee. So even after Ed left us, he seemed to find ways to bring us together. Commissioner Linda Creighton actually said it best whenever we first approached her about the naming campaign, and I wasn't on the commission then, so it just wasn't illegal lobbying. The airport, Commissioner Creighton said, the airport damn well better name the terminal after Ed, because I've never seen so many Chinese that usually don't like each other in the same room pushing for the same thing. And maybe to put it in political terms that our elected officials and advocates can understand a little bit better, this naming campaign got the president of the Community Tenants Association out at the same time that it got the head of government affairs for the SF Realtors out in the same room supporting the same issue time after time after time for an entire year. And I got to ask this question, when's that ever going to happen again? So thank you, Ed. But Ed's not the only person that we need to thank, although, Ed, we love that you're here and this is amazing. I also just want to talk a little bit about the effort that it took to get us here. It was a 13-month campaign. It was a campaign that really was led from and came from the Chinese American community. And I just want to say thank you to all of the supporters who came on board to push for this. We know it was the right thing, but it was really incredible. So I want to call out some individuals and groups in particular. And I know we'll do a little bit more of that later. But there's some folks who are really important and stepped up to this effort. First and foremost, I just want to acknowledge Annie Chung. Annie was on the naming committee. Annie, I think, really was the moral compass of this effort. But also, Annie, I just want to thank you for stepping out early. Your leadership in this community and for this effort really, I think, lent the credibility that we needed to make sure that this is something that everybody got behind. So thank you very much, Annie. And Annie just got back from Hong Kong yesterday, so we're glad you're here. Next, I just want to call out and thank Goretti Louie. I have to credit Goretti with getting this thing rolling. When Goretti called us, most of us just thought that she was inviting us out for a free lunch. Turns out she was setting up our work plan for the next 13 months, so thank you. I also want to just acknowledge Walter Wang. I know Ed was like your brother, and I know losing him has been really hard for you, but you were there every step of the way, and thank you for your support financially, politically, Your leadership also lent an incredible amount of credibility to this effort, and Walter, just want to thank you so much for that. The leadership from the Chinese Chamber of Commerce and the Chinese Consolidated Benevolent Associations, so many leaders from these organizations were there every step of the way. I see Ringo in the back. I see, well, Ringo's in the back, so no, I'm just kidding. Kitman, Eddie, everybody who showed up at hearing after hearing after hearing, and the same is true for our CCBA presidents. And for those of you who know the Chinese community, don't take that kind of commitment lightly or take it for granted. Thank you so much. The Edley Democratic Club, I mean, you guys gave the best public testimony, I have to admit, but you also had the best stickers hands down whenever we were in the testimony room. And many of you worked really hard with Ed and for Ed during his years as mayor, and that truly came out when you gave your public testimony, so thank you. Also to our grassroots leaders from the Community Tenants Association, our seniors from Self-Help for the Elderly, our nonprofit community leaders from API Council. You know, your coming out really showed that this campaign was something special to real people and not just sort of us political types or advocates out there, and I thought that was really meaningful. Janet C. and your teachers, you came out every time. The Millbrae crew, I'll say, Anders and Margaret and Mayor Wayne Lee. The sister city committees, you showed so much commitment. I know Ed relished his role in building international relations, and you clearly relished Ed's relishment. That will be my only bad joke for the day, I swear. Individual friends of Ed Lee really came out. That was incredible. Andrew's son, Richard Harris, and Bruce Aged, I need to call out in particular. You guys were really amazing, and you were there all the time. Ed's city family was incredibly helpful. The Johnstons, who aren't here. The Kellys, who are led by Naomi. Sorry, Harlan. Just calling it. Oh, never mind the Johnstons. Sorry. PJ and Carrie, who are here. And the Kavas. I know Steve is here, but you're the only Kava I know, so I guess you lead that family too. You know, and also I just want to please just really give a thank you to the numerous airport staff who were cheering us from the sidelines and who really figured out a way to make this happen in the airport way without a lot of fanfare, but really effectively and expeditiously. And, you know, this is meant as a compliment. You guys sound like a bunch of Ed Lee bureaucrats. Yeah. I want to thank Jason Chaminard, who's administrative assistant over at CCDC. I think everybody got to know your name because you sent out so many emails and you organized this thing so well. So thank you, Jason, wherever you are. Kinson Wang, and this is a shameless plug for Harborview Restaurant in Embarcadero 4. When we started this campaign, you were running RNG Lounge, and you let us meet there time and time again. Then you opened Harborview, and you let us meet there as well. Thank you so much for your support along the way. Bill Lee, who I know is here tonight with the line dancers. Bill has always been a leader in this community. And then lastly, and of course not leastly, we want to thank the mayor's family and Anita in particular. You being there at our community meetings was really, wind behind our backs, and thank you so much for motivating us. So I'm just going to end on a bit of a personal note. Not many people know that I was president of the Asian American Bar Association in 2011. Assemblymember Chu was also president about 25 years before me. So, but I was planning for my installation dinner, and I thought long and hard about who I wanted to be keynote speaker. And one answer really emerged among the others, which was the person that I wanted to. Whose career I really wanted to capture as a person that I wanted to emulate, and it was, at that time, City Administrator Ed Lee. Ed Lee was a community-based tenant and civil rights attorney who went on to serve his community by serving this city. And Ed exemplified the kind of public service that I wanted to impress upon my fellow attorneys. It also made me look like a genius that Ed became mayor between the time I invited him and the time that he spoke, and it actually doubled the attendance. So thank you, Ed, once again. So when I got to work for Mayor Lee early on in his administration, it really was with great pride that I did so. And I just want to say it's also with an incredible, immense amount of pride that when I come to the international terminal from now on, I can say to myself or whoever's willing to listen, which is usually my wife, I got to work for that guy. Thank you.
Thanks, Commissioner. And it is our pleasure to have such a wonderful showing in the family, and we're so appreciative of everyone being here. And with that, we want to welcome, representing the family, If you would, come on up. I think Tanya, daughter Tanya, speaking on behalf of the family.
Hello, everyone. This is truly such an incredible honor. On behalf of my mom, Anita Lee, and the entire Lee family, many of which are here today, we would like to thank Mayor Lyndon Breed, Airport Director Ivor Sotero, members of the Airport Commission, and of course, the wonderful community who pushed this initiative forward and who were really the heart of this amazing dedication today. Thank you so much. This dedication, like many have said, feels quite fitting. And people have talked about how, as a first Chinese American mayor, how significant that is in the place where in 1882 there was the Exclusion Act, and now his name is on the international airport. My mom and dad raised my sister and I to be global citizens and appreciate the interconnectedness of us all. And I also know that when my dad was mayor, he helped to strengthen so many international relationships with the city. And every time he was on one of those trips, he would excitedly text us about all the things that he was experiencing. So this international terminal is such a beautiful and significant kind of place, whether it's travelers about to embark on an exciting adventure, or a gathering place for families to reunite or send off their loved ones, or a comforting harbor for someone returning home. This is a liminal place of coming and going that centers human connection and human possibility. What an amazing honor then to have the departures hall of this international terminal dedicated to my father, Edwin Lee, who was the son of Chinese immigrants and truly believed in our collective ability to raise each other up and to achieve new heights. So I'll close with a quote of my dad's: "Live your lives boldly and keep the doors open for others." Thank you so much. We're truly honored.
Thank you. Thanks, Tanya. So that concludes our speaking portion. I do want to recognize so many important people. Well, all of you are important. Some of our VIPs I want to call out and recognize. The Board of Supervisors, current President Norman Yee. Thank you for being here, Norman. Mayor Wayne Lee from the City of Millbrae. Our airport commissioners, our Vice President Linda Creighton, Eleanor Johns, Commissioner Rich Guggenheim, and of course, Commissioner Young. And Larry sends his regards. Our president couldn't make it today, but sends his well wishes to everyone. Members of the Board of Equalization, Malia Cohn. Malia. Former Airport Commissioner Carol Ito. Carol. The TSA Director for SFO, Fred Lau. Police Chief Bill Scott. And former Fire Chief Joanne Hayes-White. Welcome. Thank you for being here. And Steve Cava, of course. Steve, great to see you. Thank you for coming, Steve. Oh, do we have some department heads too? Phil Ginsberg, thank you, Phil. Office of Civic Engagement, Adrian Pond, thank you both for being here. And we mentioned Naomi and Harlan. Wonderful to have you all here. So with that, what we want to do is move to the center of the terminal here and do our unveiling by the mayor. And